3 Chinese tech giants, 2 years in the making, 1 car. The AVATR 1.1 is an amalgamation of the best work of the best Chinese tech companies and is an absolute work of art. This thing makes use of Huawei's brand new operating system, CATL's lithium-ion batteries, and Changan Auto's wealth of experience in the automotive space. In this video, we will break down everything you need to know about this game-changing new Chinese EV. And spoiler alert, this thing might just dethrone the Tesla Model Y. So, what on earth actually is AVATR? Well, AVATR is a new Chinese EV brand that is basically made up of the Avengers in the Chinese tech space. The company was co-founded by 3 Chinese tech giants, Changan Auto, Huawei, and CATL. This blend of businesses has opened up so many new doors and opportunities in the EV space because these companies have such a wide array of expertise. Huawei is a giant in the telecom and network space and has worked on the 1.1 smart car technology. CATL is a behemoth in the lithium-ion battery space, producing battery technology that even Tesla is jealous of. And Changan Auto has years of car design and manufacturing experience, so they cover the bulk of the designing and manufacturing process. So yeah, this company is a bit of a dream team. It's like having Messi, Ronaldo, and Mbappe all playing on the same side. Before we take a look at the 1.1 in detail, it's worth mentioning that Huawei has just come out with some new and very interesting software. So, if you haven't heard, Huawei recently launched its new Harmony OS 4.0 operating system, and it's kind of a game changer. Harmony OS 4 builds on the company's idea of having this ecosystem of technology centered around one central terminal. This allows users to share files and data across devices. It's kind of like how Apple's system works. Now, you might think I'm going off on a tangent here, but stay with me. What if Huawei implemented this technology into AVATR cars? This could be a huge step forward for the EV industry and would make new models even more luxurious. Not to mention practical. Users could control the infotainment system from their phone and wouldn't have to worry about syncing anything up, because it would just already be there. Thing is, this would likely be more successful than other concepts like the Apple Car 2, because Huawei would only be working on the software, leaving the actual design and construction of the car to Changan Auto, who are far more qualified for the job. We'd love to get your thoughts on this idea in the comment section. Would implementing this new operating system be a great idea for the EV space, or is its application far too limited? It's also worth touching on just how big CATL's contribution are for the 1.1 and AVATR as a company in general. So, CATL produces lithium-ion batteries, which work very much like Tesla's batteries. But here's the thing, CATL's version is better in every single way. Side by side, a CATL cell holds more energy than a Tesla cell. This means that an EV using CATL cells requires fewer overall cells to generate the same range, which has some massive implications for weight, charging rates, and range. Western companies like Tesla and even Ford simply can't compete with this kind of technology right now. This means that the 1.1 quite literally has the foundation to blow every Tesla model out of the water. So, the AVATR 1.1 clearly has a stellar team behind it. But just how good is this thing? In a word, very. The 1.1 has been marketed as a luxury SUV, and the exterior certainly lives up to these expectations. Starting at the bonnet, you'll be able to see some seriously funky headlights that wrap around the front bumper. The entire body makes great use of soft angles and sweeping lines, and as you walk around the sides of the 1.1, you can see elements of the Jaguar E-Pace, which is a fine compliment. You'll also notice those massive wheels, which are made to look even more intimidating by a bold, geometric alloy design. The standout feature of the exterior design is the rear panels. The back end slopes down at a sharp angle, making for a very large contrast between the front and rear. There's even an active spoiler for aerodynamics, and even more interestingly, the 1.1 doesn't actually have a rear window. During the design process, AVATR realized that they wouldn't have enough room to create a practical rear windscreen. Instead, they decided to install a digital rearview mirror which will offer far better visibility. It also looks pretty good. As for dimensions, the 1.1 is 4.88 meters or 16 feet long, 1.6 meters or 5 feet 2 tall, and 1.97 meters or 6 feet 4 wide. This puts it on the bigger side of the luxury SUV equation. To put this into context, the 1.1 is very slightly bigger than the latest Audi e-tron. All of this room is going to make the 1.1 very comfortable during longer journeys, not to mention practical. You won't have any issue fitting several suitcases for an airport run or a week's worth of camping gear in it. The 11 really starts to shine when you open the door and take a seat in the cabin. The interior feels very luxurious and will offer passengers extreme comfort thanks to high-quality leather seats in a patterned design. The rest of the cabin is made from high-quality plastics that match the color of the leather for a very modern feel. In the teaser video, the interior featured a two-tone black and white design, but there's a good chance that you'll be able to change this to suit your preferences. Aside from the good looks, the interior of the 11 comes packed with all kinds of tech and infotainment goodies. The centerpiece is a 15.6 floating screen that controls everything from the sat-nav to the music. The driver and front passenger also have separate screens. The driver's screen displays important information surrounding the car, and the passenger screen is essentially a TV, allowing passengers to pass the drive by in style. What's awesome about this setup is the fact that there are literally no buttons on the dash, aside from the ones to open the door and control the windows. This gives the cabin a very futuristic feel that even Tesla can't replicate. And who designed all of this infotainment? You guessed it, Huawei. What's more, all of the infotainment runs off of Harmony OS, and as I mentioned previously, this move could have a huge effect on the EV space, especially if the operating system is updated to Harmony OS 4. Huawei has also developed a completely new assisted driving system called AVATR. It'll be interesting to see how this compares to the likes of Tesla. The EV drivetrain that powers this car is also very impressive. The 11 uses a dual-motor setup and is powered by premium CATL lithium-ion batteries. This setup is no joke, and the 11 can actually get from 0 to 60 in just under 4 seconds. As for the range, the top-of-the-line model will be good for 680 kilometers or 422 miles. This is fairly standard for luxury EVs right now, but it's still impressive. Charging is also very impressive. Thanks to CATL's 750-volt technology, you'll be able to add an extra 124 miles of range with just 10 minutes of charging. Although this is an ideal scenario figure, so average charging times may be a little lower. In terms of pricing, new buyers can expect to pay around $51,800 for the entry-level model, $54,000 for the mid-range model, and just over $60,000 for the top-of-the-line model. There's also a limited version of the 11 called the AVATR 011. This particular version is limited to just 500 models and comes with a much higher price tag of $88,850. Aside from the limited model, the 11 is going to be sitting at around the same price point as the Tesla Model Y. On paper, the two models stack up very competitively, and it'll be interesting to see how well the 11 can perform against the big dogs in the EV space. If all of this wasn't exciting enough for you, then I've got even more exciting news to share. The 11 isn't the only model that AVATR is currently working on. They're actually already working on the AVATR 1.2. Let me tell you, it's something completely different. What we know so far is that the 1.2 will be an all-electric hatchback producing up to 578 horsepower. And inside there's apparently an instrument panel that's nearly 3 feet long. The 1.2 will be officially unveiled in Munich later this year, so stay tuned for a future video when we look at the 1.2 in more depth, because this model might just be even more shocking than the 1.1. So that's everything you need to know about the AVATR 1.1. Ultimately, there's simply no denying that this thing looks incredibly impressive. The 1.1 features everything you want to see from a luxury EV these days, minus the 6-figure price tag. Sure, it's not cheap by any means, but for what you're getting, the 1.1 might just be one of the best value-for-money EVs on the market. Drop us a line with your thoughts on the AVATR 1.1 in the comments below. Is this thing going to shake up the Western EV market? Or is it just another overhyped EV that won't live up to its expectations? Subscribe to the channel for more updates on the latest developments in the EV space. And on that note, I'll see you in the next video.